Okay. Okay, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board Commission is being called to order. Today is Thursday, November 6th, 2025, and it's probably about 5:05 p.m. at Nisswa City Hall. Before we motion to approve the agenda tonight, I would like to make an addition on the agenda.
Okay.
I'd like to add in a conversation about the DNR grant and the possibility of matching the funds for that.
Can we put that under old business 6A Nisswa City Park Planning?
Okay. And then maybe a little conversation too so Dan wasn't here when we talked about, when we started the parks, when we went through and talked about the DNR grant, and then we went and voted on the phase 1 for the Parks Commission, the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can go through that a little bit maybe and get Dan up to speed, and I was gonna say too with Bruce, but Bruce is not here either, so we'll just.
Yes, I will just elaborate on that under the city park planning
Okay.
item. Yep.
Can we get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I so move.
A second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Which brings us to open forum. Let me see, we have the mayor in the house. Oh, you guys are doing a great job. Keep up. Okay. No conversations? Okay. So that brings us to the department report.
Awesome. Thank you, Sherry. So we've had about a 2-month break, so I'm gonna recap several items here. First up on maintenance and community center items, a couple of things that we've been working on here. We did get a handrail added at the stairs at Nisswa Lake Park, so that's been a very awesome addition. Should be great coming into the full season next year. So we're thankful for the individual contribution that helped to get that going and complete. So huge thank you to that individual. We did have some graffiti down at Nisswa Lake Park, so we discovered and removed that. Our maintenance staff participated in a train saw chaining course as well as attended their continuing education course on pesticide application. Annually, we order tables and chairs for the community center, so we got that complete. Now that we're late into fall, the docks are out. Couple projects that we worked on, we stained the dugout benches. We just blew off the trails again yesterday. And now that we're into November, the Between the Lakes Park bathroom is closed for the season, so that reopens again May 1st. We also ordered a few different supplies, one of which being pickleball nets. They were pretty rough shape by the end of the season, so we got some new ones to kick off next year. And then circling back on some items that we discussed last spring about the community center and looking at some of those updates coming down the pipeline. I have done a walkthrough with Norson and High Tech this week, looking at the facility there, getting their opinions, and they'll be drafting up some information here coming through the next month or so. In terms of recreation, we started and finished soccer, flag football, and dining etiquette class. And now we are on to registrations for basketball and pond hockey. Time for Play, which is our indoor play program for youth up to age about 6. That starts next week. That's in the community center. For ages 1 to 6, that's $3 a participant. So a really awesome indoor activity for young families in the wintertime here. That's Wednesdays and Friday mornings. And then we are also accepting applications for our seasonal positions, so getting all of that underway and ready to rock coming here into December. And then as we go on to some of the park items, I'm going to touch mostly on the Gull Lake Trail. The trail was paved on October 4th, and then on October 20th, we did a walkthrough with a contractor to create a final punch list of tasks. The trail is now open for use, and some tasks will be deferred till spring. And so that list has been identified and worked through with the contractor, but it is open for winter use now. And then along with that, if you guys remember, we amended the grant to include a trail into the Nisswa Lake Park as well as a bathroom. So we continue to work on the plans for that. We're getting pretty close to the final layout budget. And kind of getting all of those items in a row for a quick execution in the spring. So continue to work through that. I don't remember if I mentioned, so I'm just going to say this again. Per the manufacturer of the bathroom, they did indicate that it would need to be winterized, which means we'd be closing it for the bathroom, closing it for the winter. So happy to answer any other questions. That's the bulk of my report.
No questions.
Good. Cool. So moving on to old business, Nisswa City Park. I'm gonna start with item 1 here, giving an update on local sales tax. And then we'll kind of dive into the rest of it, the phasing as well as the DNR grant, because I think they kind of fall all in line together. So you have an update in your packet of some of the stuff that's been worked on. So at the September 18th City Council workshop, staff were directed to begin drafting a resolution. So the resolution has specific information that needed to be included. The proposed tax rate, including documentation of regional significance, the specific project to be funded, the amount to be raised, and estimated length of time the tax will be needed. So all of that is the requirement of the resolution. In your packet, you see the information from PFM on bonding scenarios. And so we utilize that information along with some of the estimations from the U of M's sales tax report to come up with what you see in your packet with the description, the proposed tax rate of 0.5%, estimated amount to be raised to be 10 million, and estimated length of time is 15 years. So that at the October 21st City Council meeting, staff were directed to continue with that resolution. On October 3rd, I did send that resolution for legal review. So that is the information that went into the resolution that I've not heard back from legal review on. And so in talking with Maggie and looking at some of that bond information, looking at some of just kind of, we took a conservative approach in what we implemented in here. So happy to answer any questions on that specific information. And if there's no questions, then I'll keep rolling on.
So I missed the meeting on Wednesday morning.
Yep.
With we're gonna have some discussion with the business women and men in our community.
Yep.
What was, if you could give me some background as maybe like a little couple.
Perfect segue. That's my next point after this.
Okay.
So I wanted you guys to make sure that you knew what was being put in that resolution. I have not received the feedback from legal. This will be going to city council as indicated back in October, laying out that plan. So in between all of this, we also held a meeting yesterday morning, November 5th. That was a informational meeting for the local business community. So that's anyone that owns a business or operates their business within Nisswa. Quick summary on that. We had about 28 business representatives there. We had a 3-question survey that went out with asking if they're a Nisswa resident. Do you support the city council pursuing a local option sales tax to fund improvements at City Park? And would you be willing to donate to help fund improvements at City Park? And the majority answered no, they do not support pursuing local option sales tax. There was 12 out of the 17 respondents that we got, 12 indicated that they do not support it. 1 indicated that they do support it, and 4 said they needed more information. So there's 20 in attendance. We received 17 survey results back. When asking if they'd be willing to donate to help fund the park, 8 said yes, 7 said no, and 2 were inconclusive maybes. So that was about a 50-50 split. I would say of the people there, it was a resounding majority that they do not support pursuing local option sales tax. The meeting kind of took some different twists and turns. A lot of different questions were brought up, kind of talking about what's been done, how we want to go about going forward, which very much ties into Sherry, kind of like some of the DNR grant and the phasing. So some of those questions were brought up with the phasing. It was very informative. There's a lot of things that people either have forgotten that happened or never even knew what happened. Most of the phasing stuff that we did was publicized in, what year is it now? In 2024. 2024 is when we publicized most of the phasing. So that was, I believe, in June in 24, we determined that we were going to look at grouping playground and pickleball as phase 1. And that information was then publicized through the summer to try and get matching dollars to apply for the DNR grant. When we didn't receive that funding, we kind of went to a standstill. In March of this year, I presented again to City Council of just exactly that we didn't receive our funding and kind of trying to recalibrate how we're going to go forward. The Parks Commission here in June of this year had a motion to see how much the city may contribute to achieving any of these projects. At that time, we discussed that the playground would be the top priority to receive any funding. So if we're going to break out phase 1 into a smaller bite-sized piece, as what we discussed in June, the playground was going to be the first piece. Is that how you remember it, Sherry?
Yeah, but I remember the pickleball courts in the park were in phase 1, was designated
Correct.
as phase 1.
Yes.
And then we as a board commission voted that that's what was going to be phase 1 after hearing from the businesses and people around here, what they wanted most of all was the parks and the pickleball. So that was the phase 1, right?
Yeah, and so that was back in June of last year.
Yes.
And then we ran that campaign to try and get the matching funds to go with the DNR grant to execute the playground and pickleball portion of the park.
Correct.
When that did not come to fruition, after a few just different meetings, different dialogues, when we looked at what might be the top priority and trying to get something complete, we identified the playground at that time, and then I was tasked with asking City Council what they may be willing to put towards it. Fast forward till September's budget workshop. A council member did suggest an amount of about 500,000 to be put towards the park project. So as we continue looking forward, City Council has not determined an amount or agreed to transfer an amount of money. That is still something being discussed. And tonight, kind of looking for you guys' thoughts on reaffirming that the playground is maybe the first step if they are to transfer those funds. And so, and a little bit more cherry tying in with the DNR grant that has an annual cycle due by the end of March historically. And that grant does require specific information that would have to be provided. Some of it is specs that we don't currently have, depending on what we would apply for.
But we need the money first to be able to apply.
You need to
for
have
that- for
matching
the
dollars.
grants. We need-
Yes.
First, we need okay, so my thought is this. It has been thrown out there, the $500,000 for the council, but that hasn't been approved by the council. I think if the board here tonight has a cost for what the playground is, that cost there, and then what the cost of 2 pickleball courts are, and that gets brought to council in November if it can. I don't know if it can because we're running out of time for the docket. And that in a way would, I hate to say it, but compel the council to commit funds to get the playground done at least. And hopefully we can get a couple of pickleball courts done too. You can't do all 6 right now. But what's that?
Yeah, I'm just getting the pickleball started and just getting it
Right,
started.
and it can always be, and I mean, this was a discussion with some of the business owners too, and we've had this discussion too. If we get the playground done and say we get 2 courts in, or even just the playground,
Mhm.
it shows the public that something is being done.
Yes.
And hopefully there will be enthusiasm for funding.
So along with this, a couple community members have reached out to Mayor Carnahan about potentially being interested in helping raise funds. So that's another thing that people are starting to throw their hand up, being willing to get involved, and as that layers into all of this. One question I have, because it kept coming up at the meeting, is who's the leader?
Of the,
Who's,
of the phases of making the park happen?
and
The leader of the
that's my
fundraising.
question here, kind of trying to figure out how to go forward with this. Is council, do we set a financial amount and then we work within that? Do we create our phases and our plans and then we set the amount of money to that? So is council directing the Parks Commission? Is the Parks Commission directing council? Is the timeline dictating something, or is the money dictating something? Like what are our triggers and who's leading who? That kept coming up repeatedly yesterday, is who's the leader? So what's our process? What's our sequence?
Yeah.
Because I am not clear anymore.
Well, the DNR grant is of the essence, it's a timely of the essence. Needs to be submitted by March, correct?
Correct.
So the funds there's a matching fund of 350,000.
Correct. Historically, I've not looked up the new grant cycle.
So it might be a different, if we can get the city council to release some of the monies that they have, and if they could release some of that, then we can go ahead and start that grant. In theory, we would have 700,000 a budget then. We would have a budget to start the parks, and we'd have a budget to maybe put in 1 or 2 pickleball courts. And then, and I remember when we went and sat in with Pales, we went and saw in Cross Lake, we sat in that conversation. And they were really good at fundraising, and they had spoken about, you just get it started. And if you get it started, the people will see it, that something's happening, and get excited. And then it's a lot easier to raise money that way once you see something happening, rather than keep putting it out there.
So in one of my questions, which kind of ties into this, when city council puts out maybe an amount of money, I would like to be very clear on what the intent of that money is. Is it intended to go towards a matching grant? Is it intended to be used for the playground and 2 pickleballs, playground and hockey rink maintenance? Because that still exists as well. If we don't have a timeline for that, then do we want to utilize some of our reserves? So I just want to be very clear on the front end what the intent is.
It was intended earlier that the playground and the pickleball courts were we voted that it was the master plan, phase 1 of the master plan.
Yep, that's what the Parks Commission
Yes,
identified.
yes, the Parks Commission. So that we voted on that, and then we were gonna bring that to the city council.
Yep, which we did.
So if we can propose that, I'm not sure how to phrase this, but a resolution to city council, if they can release some of the funds, then we can go ahead with that grant.
So when you say release the funds, are you only looking at enough for matching dollars, or are you looking at enough to complete pickleball and playground, or like
I'm
what?
looking for matching funds, just matching the funds, just matching the funds.
Cause that would give you a project amount of, if, should it go through, and if you can maximize it, it's a budget of $700,000, which is what we had earmarked for the playground alone.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so,
then how would we want to modify that, or is that the goal?
well, again, I'm going to say that we put the pickleball courts in along with the playground, the inclusive playground, that we, I don't know how we would word it, but that would be part of the phase one. Like Mark said, it's 6 pickleball courts is not realistic.
Well,
One pickleball court?
what I'm hearing from Amber is the 700,000 is 0 pickleball courts in our current project, right?
In our current proposal,
In our current proposal, 700,000 is only a park or only a playground.
Or
There's
it's
there's
only-
nothing else. So
or it's
what we're
only
saying
pickleball.
is, yes, Mayor?
in our plan, they're about $450,000. So something we also have to remember on this is nothing has been brought to spec. So this is conceptual with high level pricing based off of professional. We have not determined if it's concrete, if it's bituminous, if there's fencing, seating, amenities surrounding it. So we went high, hopefully, trying to account for those things. But until we get to starting plans, we don't know the costs.
Mhm.
We do have, the playground company did give a first round, and that was based on the $700,000 budget. That includes removals, things like that. That includes like the dumpster, that includes the earthwork. That is not just
The equipment.
the equipment. It's to complete the project.
Can I say something? Disregard what I said earlier. Well, no, don't disregard it. I think right now, okay, so if we were to do the playground, we're looking at 700,000, correct?
That's
That's
just
an
what we have in our
estimate.
budget. You can pick any number.
But I mean, on the top end, it's 700,000.
I think that would help achieve our goal of an inclusive destination
Okay.
playground.
So the playground, if we look at it, doesn't need a lot of engineering and so forth with it and extra cost. I'm just throwing this out there. I think if the committee tonight says, yep, we want to do the playground, 700,000 is what we want from the city to put forth. And then if the city okays it, the playground at least will be started and done, hopefully, and put a timeline on it. You'd like to see it start next fall. And then I think if that gets okayed by the city council, then after that, work on what needs to be done to get some pickleball courts in. Because I mean, with that, and then work with the grant on that one, because I think with that, don't you need a lot of like engineering work done and
Do
stuff?
you, do you need to show some? Yes.
Because those have to be shovel ready for the grants. And right now, we don't have enough time to do shovel ready for, I don't think there's enough time to be able to get all the information shovel ready. I might be wrong. You know, if I'm wrong, let me know. So I think let's go for something so that we can see there is some accomplishment. And go from there. Because do you think we have enough time to do all the work that needs to be done for the grant that's due in March?
I haven't researched it again, so it's not at the top of my brain. I do know it needed some items and we did not complete most of them the last round. I think because it layers into all the other city things going on, I would have to confer with engineers to see if they have the capacities to get it done. Yeah.
So that's just my suggestion.
We've been discussing the DNR grant for, every year that it comes up and we've failed. Now I just see an opportunity if city council will vote to release some funds and we get a matching grant, that just, it would be huge for the community to just get something started. And I think it would behoove us to get that in. You know, do whatever you can to get it in, whether that goes to pickleball and the inclusive playground. But once we have 700 or whatever, how much money it's gonna be, then we have a budget, right? So now we have a budget, now we know how much money we can spend and we can do a good job at it.
So we have
There-
high level estimates on what each element of area of the park.
Right.
So are
Right.
we looking for city council to set a budget and then we determine the plan?
So what information does city council need to release $350,000?
One, I think the council's looking at a couple things. One, how much do you want? I would say we need $700,000 for the playground equipment.
So do you hear my dilemma? City council wants to know what we want and we need to know what city council is willing to give.
Right.
To help work the plan.
Right. So what I would do is that I'd come forth and say, we want to do the playground first. We need $700,000. And we want to start, and I think some members of the council would like to know, when would you want to start to do this? I think that would give them more. One, I'll say this, there hasn't been a lot of backing from the council in the past years because other things would come up. And this has been put on the back burner. We need to stop that. So I think if this committee came forth and says to the council, we want $700,000 so that we can start this, at least start breaking ground in August, September of next year. And if that, I'm just saying that's what I think the council would be looking at.
So when I hear that, so 700, and that is only to implement a playground. So is there additional money then to engineer for pickleball?
Well, what did we have in the fund? How much money have we raised? Have we raised for the? park?
You could do two things. You can say 700,000 so that we can get the playground done. But we'd also like to see if working on a grant for March so that you can get that matching grant, and that 700 would cover that. And if that doesn't come to fruition, at least you'll have the money for the playground. But if you can get the matching grant, at least you can start some with the pickleball. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Is that doable or?
Well, we're not talking about 700, we're talking about 350.
350.
I'm saying,
Council hasn't set an amount, and so that's what I'm wondering. Does council want us to create the plan so they know how much money to set, or is council gonna give us the amount of money and we set the plan? Who's leading who? That's the question that keeps coming up.
if it were me, I'd say we want the council to come forth with $700,000, not matching. But you'd also work on to get the extra monies on the grant. So that would increase from the 700,000 to whatever
It
the
doesn't
grant
have to be
amount
an either or. I'm not trying to say
No, no.
you do this and only this. All these other things can still happen.
We'd like to do
But
this.
these are the questions that I keep getting. And as you can see tonight, why it's so hard.
Well. Yes.
Go ahead.
yes,
Come
go
on
ahead.
up so they can. If you got, yeah. Everyone. They'll sleep.
Name and address and firstborn.
My name is Ron Dewey and I live in Nisswa here. I work with DNR grants often in our business. And from what I'm seeing, just listening here, what I would recommend doing is figure out your phase one first. What you want to spend. Do you want to do just parks or just the playground equipment? Okay, say that comes in. Do you have a dollar amount for that?
The one that we have in the budget currently is 700,000.
700,000. Okay, so then what you want to do is revolve around the grant application. What does the grant application require?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then if you can get your matching portion from Nisswa, like say if it's 350,000, okay, then you mesh those two together, you get your application filled out. Then you'd come to the council, and ask, say, we need the 350 grand to do this, but what I'm seeing is this tornado just keeps going around and around and around. You guys aren't getting a person that knows the grant process, or you're not fixed on one beginning position. Okay, if you're saying 700 grand from council and council saying no, okay, then you need to make it smaller. You know, or if it's hard to get that, if they're just kind of waffling, you don't know what they're gonna do, then you need to go smaller. So if you can start at the 350 because the matching grant, then you've got some foundation to work with. I work with lake improvement districts and lake associations with the DNR grant process. And that's what I always recommend to them, you know, because I run into the same situation all the time with lake improvement districts. They say, Ron, how much, you know, what do you need for a dollar amount to do your work? And I say, well, what can you get? Because it's irrelevant what I need if you can't get it.
Mhm.
So if you're asking for $1 million, but you can't possibly get it, you know, for the playground, you have to start with something you can get. So that's why it's gonna revolve around the grant, the DNR.
Yeah, and the grant amount is 50% match, maximum of 350,000.
Okay, right.
So if you can match out 350,000, you have a total project budget of 700,000.
Exactly.
So,
Start with phase one chunk and get that accomplished, you know, if you think you can get that part accomplished. Because it doesn't do any good to talk about a bunch more if you can't get it accomplished.
Phase one has already been determined.
Okay, so.
well, initially it was playground and pickleball, so is that still phase one?
That's the, what
Or
we're
is it
saying
just
is we know
playground?
We can't,
That's what's been
What-
determined.
what he just said is
I
we
heard-
can't do
Yeah, I heard him.
on phase one.
Yep.
It's
So that's
just-
where we kind of recalibrated back in June, if we're forced to pick one and scale back, as Ron's mentioning. At that time in June, we indicated playground was first.
That would be a wonderful idea, and let's get it going, you know, so phase one, the parks.
And so maybe the play is we're affirming tonight that playground is top priority. That's our first one we want to get going on. What's currently in the budget is about 700,000. Council, what are you willing to give? If it's only 350,000 and they direct us to go for the grant, then that's what we'll do. If it's that we just want it done, and here's 700,000, then we know what we're doing. And we will circle back on all the other things. Like those aren't going away. Those plans have to come as well.
I'm gonna throw a wrench in there because you've dealt with this too, so. You get a commitment from the city of 350,000, you go for the grant, and then you don't get the grant, so now you only have 350,000.
So then what would the city do?
Yeah,
You offer up 350,000, go for the grant, doesn't happen, then you transfer the rest?
Oh, Jennifer Carnahan, 6217 Nashway Road. To answer your question, you had said like who is leading, who's in charge? I guess from my viewpoint, it would be, and I know it's been confusing lately, it would be this commission or committee is making a recommendation to the council, right? Led by our Parks and Recreation Director of her knowledge, her experience of where we could go with all the details behind it, and then council would weigh that. Now, they may not always agree, right? They could disagree. But I guess in the way that I've watched other committees work here, like Public Works or Planning and Zoning, or even like I sit on the Liquor Committee, right? We bring recommendations to council, council can choose to disagree. With that being said, to Councilmember Fraley's point, listening to other council members talk in our workshop in September in a past council meeting, I do believe there would be an appetite from council to release funds from our reserves and transfer it to support an initiative at the city park. I hear what you guys are saying. Phase one is the playground and the pickleball courts, but I'm not sure that council would be willing to release that level of funding. And so how Amber's been saying, and Councilmember Fraley, do you just pick like a 1A as a part of phase one, right? And that would be the playground. As it relates to the DNR grant, I think grants are a good thing. But because there's no guarantee to get it, and this is what I thought I heard Councilmember Fraley saying, if the council so motioned or so moved to say release whatever the amount is, 700,000, 500,000 to just go build the playground without the DNR grant, concurrently or slightly thereafter, could, if the Parks Committee so desires and Amber feels it's a good path to present to council, could the grant go for 1B, which is a pickleball courts? I think that's what you were trying to say,
Oh, okay.
right? Not to mix, not to marry, you're right, blurring everything together, split them out, but they can be concurrent paths. That could be consideration. I don't know if council would go for 700,000 for the playground, just looking at our reserves and having some fiscal responsibility of not wanting to draw it too far down, but I think it is a good idea to use reserves. Taxpayers have already paid it. What we talked about, we need to show forward progress for the community, as we heard when we went to Cross Lake. You get one good win or one thing out there where the city is already using money that's been collected from the taxpayers. Let's go build a beautiful, all-inclusive playground. Concurrently, maybe there's a grant path forward for these pickleball courts. So now you're showing one win, hopefully done by next fall. There's a beautiful new playground, then this other path is going. This fundraising effort gets generated and it snowballs from there. I just don't know if, we won't know until we get in front of them if they'd go for the 700,000. But when we had talked previously, I don't remember if it was like in the summer or late spring. And again, I realized costs change and everything, but that 700,000 too was for taking out like the wood chips and putting in that, I don't know what you call it, that,
Port in place.
yeah, pour in place. But when we went over and looked at Cross Lake and talked to them, they actually kept the wood chips. And that, I think the pour in place was like 200,000 or
It-
250,000. So, the wood chip still can have a beautiful playground. You can still have this wonderful new all-inclusive equipment, but instead of having this 250,000 pour in place, you have these nice wood chips, which, yeah, they require a little more upkeep, but would council maybe have more of an appetite for saying, hey, we are confident and we will all stand behind transferring 500 or 550,000 for this all-inclusive playground, knowing that maybe that element which is a very expensive piece, changes. So just something to think about, right? Because
Yes.
what I would hate to see is like, we keep kicking the can down the road, like Ron just said, it's this tornado. Let's get a vote from council. Let's get a vote. I don't know if Amber feels the timing is our November meeting, or if she feels like she needs another month to get everything prepared for you guys to have more dialogue, whatever your recommendation is for December, but let's get a vote. Let's see if we can't, where council goes on transferring money and looking at parallel pathing so that things can actually move forward and it's not more time of just where do we go, who's in charge, right? Because I think that has caused consternation. And I think we all want the same thing, right? And I know how hard Amber's been working, and I can't imagine how frustrating it is for her. I'm sure I've frustrated her sometimes, not intended, but we all want to have a win here, right? So just something to think about.
Yes.
Well,
thank
and
you.
to
Thank you.
recap a little bit for everybody at home who may be listening too, because it did come up, like it does, people forget what we've done. People forget how long this stuff takes. Maybe they didn't see it the first time, right? And so when we talk about the phasing, and that's a good way of putting it, 1A, 1B, right? So that's what we did in June. When we didn't get our phase 1 of playground and pickleball, we regrouped and we determined at that time that phase 1A was going to be playground. And this Parks Commission made a motion to seek guidance from City Council on how much they would be willing to contribute. That question was brought to them through the budget process, which was only September. So when we say things aren't happening or we're not seeing things, they are. They just take time. And maybe that one meeting you missed, like it happens, right? So in June, and this is kind of what I'm looking for here tonight, are we reaffirming that 1A is playground, 1B, I'll say 1A is playground supported by city funds. Subcategory to that, the Lions International has indicated that they have an inclusive playground grant, so we can seek that, as well as Burnix has a community grant for, I believe, 20,000. So there are other granting avenues that we can also use to help round it out. 1B then goes to pickleball. We have the next year to maybe utilize this potential committee to help seek funds. Maybe there's a sponsorship thing that's been discussed previously. And then that can be used for grants come 27. We've also, as a Parks Commission, I'm still going, Dan.
I know,
We've also, as a Parks Commission, discussed the Make Nice for the Ice Fund, which is approximately 120,000, deploying that to utilize on some maintenance for the hockey rink. So for an update, one vendor gave me a price. The hockey rink lights, they quoted at about 130 to 150,000. So that is one vendor that is not competitive. But that's another thing to layer in here. We do have some reserves funds. I would recommend lighting first because that is a tremendous safety concern. And so just putting that out there because, 1A, 1B, and 2, phase 2 does not have a very thorough plan. So we need to come up with an interim. And I think the Parks Commission has identified using the Make Nice for the Ice Fund to take care of some of that pertinent maintenance to get us through. Okay, I'm done.
I'm in favor of seeking funds from the council, city funds from the council at whatever the number for the all-inclusive park is, sans the poured floor.
Using wood chips.
Using wood chips, yeah. If that drops it down to whatever, $400,000 or $500,000, yeah, I'm all for seeking that out. Sorry, to back, you said the 1A, 1B, and I understand all that. I just want to, was that voted on? Is this still a discussion, or if we confirm that and we don't need to be talking?
That's the discussion that we had back in June, and the motion was to seek, as council, for how much funding to implement the playground as designed in the master plan. So when we say we had a discussion at that time about maintaining that price point because that's moving the location of it. So making a new footprint, which is going to increase the cost, right? So making a new footprint so it follows the master plan. Because if we're not moving the warming house, we need to design the playground around the warming house. So that was and I've read it a few times, but not recently. That was the motion back in June, was to seek funding and implement the playground as it lays out in the master plan, not in the existing footprint.
Yep.
Which then keeps the cost up more to probably that plus 500,000.
When is the DNR grant application due?
Historically, March 31st.
Okay, so if you come up with a dollar amount for phase 1, the application is due March 31st. Andy Schaefer expressed a lot of interest, and he says he has people interested in joining his committee to get, funding, donations. Turn them loose, just say, hey, Andy, okay, here's phase 1. We've got until March 31st for the application. How much money can we raise up to March 31st? Take it off the taxpayers' back, taking money from the general fund or the liquor fund, wherever it was at. Turn Andy loose. He's ready to go, I think. That was my impression at the meeting I attended with him. So I'm 100%, pro taxpayer. If those funds can be used for roads rather than a park, and if we can get donations for the park, that we need for the grant, heck, let's go with that route. Because I don't think you're going to get, when people find out that money is being spent on a park, which is a want, rather than roads, which is a need, I don't think they're going to be very happy with it. I know
argue against that all day long. I know not everyone feels the same way about it, but
yeah, I know I wouldn't be as a taxpayer. I would rather see the dollars that are generated from spirits used for roads or something that's needed.
And I will
Get donations for something that is wanted.
And-
because we have Andy, he sounds like he can
Yeah.
raise some funds.
And
so.
for people, so that this came up a while back, this parkland needs to remain parkland in perpetuity. So the city does not, what is within the park can be debated. The fact that it's a park is not debatable. There's a long lengthy process to remove any of this parkland and it must be replaced with additional parkland. So when we say let's pave it into a parking lot, like some of this is a non-option. So the city back in 1975 committed to parkland here. And it's our responsibility to ensure that we keep amenities there that are current with the times as well as safe.
And during the open houses that we've had a lot of community excitement about the playground and the pickleballs.
Yes.
It's just been a while since we brought it out to the community that we're going to get started.
Yeah. So to Ron's point, I think that's something for council. If they want us to solely seek donations, I think are we kind of in agreement of 1A, 1B, and then deploying some
Yes.
Make Nice for the Ice to update some safety concerns at the rink?
Yes.
Okay, Maggie, you got that?
So
Okay.
If
And
we,
so then from council, then we need to find out if they want to contribute funds. That's the motion we had from this commission back in June that was brought to them at the budget meeting. An idea was brought forth from a council member in response to that. We just need a council vote.
And I think they can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, let's try our hardest to get as many donations by March 31st as we can possibly get, you know, and then try to get some commitment from city council, you know, and see what they can,
Yeah.
you know, the city council knows, you know, if they want to hit 700 grand, okay, if we can get 200 grand in donations, you know, can we get the rest from city council?
Yeah, not to imply that there's either ors here, because there's always grants and there's always fundraising.
Right,
So,
right, right.
And as long as it's spelled out that, you know, we're looking at, we need $700,000 for this to go forward. We're gonna, these are the avenues we're gonna look at is the potential of, Andy, as you say, because he's ready and willing to go forth and look at the funding. And you say, the grant has to be in before that, but I would just say, looking at the grant, and so if the fundraising, if Andy can only bring in 200,000, would the city be able to put forth the money to reach the goal of 700,000? That would be a way to do it so that they know that the committee is thinking about not using full taxpayer dollars. I agree and don't agree with the needs and the wants. You and I are on pretty much the same page on that one. But and the other thing too is to look out for, I mean, Essentia Health, I think they have some grants, money. CRMC does also. I wish we lived in the Sanford area because they do a lot of donations for parks and rec. But it's a lot of work.
And while there's always grants available, that doesn't mean they all meet the criteria or the timeline. So it's a matter of piecing it all together in
Right.
maybe the project timeline as well.
the criteria, and this, maybe I'm confused, I just want to be thoughtful about this. So if we were to go to the council and say we'd like $550,000 for this, for this part, so, okay, but just to get through my thought here, and we're saying 1A, the park, that's what we would use the money for, but now we're also talking about this upwards of $350,000 grant plus other grants. And those other grants wouldn't necessarily just be for the park. Can we take that 500,000 that we know we would spend on the park and leverage that for grants for things other than the park? Because otherwise, this grant in March, we don't have any money to use to match it with, right? If we take that 500 and we dedicate it to the park, but we want to use the grant money for the pickleball courts.
And I'm thinking that's 2027, so a year out. Is
Mhm.
that what so it wouldn't be this winter's grant cycle, it'd be the next one. So you have a
Sure.
whole year to
But it's
potentially
still the
raise
same
the fund.
conversation because they're not going to give us that money again.
Right.
It's only one time and we were committed to, it would be for the park. So,
Playground, yeah.
yeah, sorry, I apologize. So that's where I'm kind of confused is we keep talking about this really important grant. And then we're talking about asking for money, but it's not for, it's for the park, but the grant's not going to be for the park. Can we figure out a way to communicate it in a way where the money that we're asking for is for all of it, for all of phase one, so that we can use it to leverage the grants. Am I,
But the
I feel like
grant-
I'm not being real, I don't know, I
In
feel like
part,
it
the
makes
grants
sense to me,
also-
but I'm,
Yeah, in part, the grants also have criteria. So another layer is that if you're gonna now lump in like pickleball, right? 1B, that requires more engineering than the playground. And so either way, if you're gonna apply for the grant, you have to get the work done in the next 3.5 months to be able to apply for the grant.
Mhm.
And so the playground's gonna have maybe a different work scope than pickleball. And so that's where it matters if you're
ask
gonna
for the-
apply for the grant or
if
not.
we ask for the money, I think it has to be clear that we are asking for one, for phase one. Knowing that our priority as a commission in phase one is the playground. But what we're asking for from the council is money for phase one. So that we can then go, the council, we have this money from the city, it's for phase one, however, we determine to use it for phase one. And then whatever we have to apply for with the grant. Does that make sense? I'm just saying we gotta be thoughtful.
You keep the terminology looser, that it's going from, keeping the terminology looser for
Yes, yes,
implementation.
yep. So that, yeah,
I just have one thing, I have to run. Keep it simple and be clear and detailed on what your ask is. It'll have a better chance of passing.
Yes.
If it's too complex, if it's not right, like, be very detailed. The Parks Commission is, right, I'm just making this up. The Parks Commission makes a recommendation to city council to transfer $500,000 by January 15th to complete,
Phase
one
one.
A in phase one, or, A in phase one, which is a new playground, to break ground or to commence no later than I'm making this up, September 15th. Be very clear about the ask, the dollars, why, what it goes for, right? Because I think if it's opaque and it's too much and it's like, oh, but this grant or this fundraising, I don't know, council likes, in my experience of serving with this council, being more clear, being concise, being straightforward, and having the rationale as to why would, I think,
that
have a
there's-
better likelihood of passing than adding all these confusions. And to hear, to the point, Ron does bring a good point. Yeah, turn Andy and Emma and Mark and Cindy and all the people that want to help loose and let them go raise money. But to Amber's point, what she's talking about, pickleball can still be a part of it, but maybe the pickleball specifically is related to that DNR grant, gives people time to raise the 350, or whatever the amount is for the matching, because these folks are energized, they're connected.
Yeah.
And they have other groups and affiliations, and I think things could be done. And then it's a bigger team effort working over here while the commitment is here. But sorry, I do have to run. I don't know if that makes sense.
And to add,
no.
But you guys will figure it out.
She just highlighted why this is really important. If we ask for one A, and what we're planning on using is the grant would be for the pickleball courts. We can't do that. We asked the city for money to use on one A, the playground. And then we're also talking about, well, let's also see if we can get matching funds to make the pickleball courts. So what I would recommend is, if we're gonna, and I'm not making a motion, but if we're gonna ask for, and I don't know what the dollar amount is that we're gonna ask for, we need to ask for that for phase one, not one A, but for all of phase one. And we need to communicate to the council that our commitment is we are doing the playground first. We're asking for the funds for one. And if it turns out that the playground only cost $400,000 and we got $500,000, we're doing the playground first. We spent $400,000 on it, and we are going to use the $100,000 for pickleball, and we are going to try to match that with this grant, with this.
And you're thinking that it's a grant for 2020.
I don't know what year you're looking at, we're looking at applying it for, but I'm just saying that the money has to be, we have to use it for what we say we're gonna use it for.
Correct. Where my mind is going with this is we don't have a full commission here.
Yeah.
And
that-
so if we're okay waiting till December to have a fuller commission, we can reaffirm this stuff and run it through December's council meeting. That, if you're going for the grant though, that really tightens that up and doesn't leave us planning time. So that's the pitfall of that. But if we're deviating from just the playground as we affirmed in June, or thinking that we want to have everybody to affirm that, my suggestion is let's wait till December's meeting to have more people here to weigh in. It shouldn't be the weight of the world on
Sorry, side question. What's a quorum for the commission?
3.
Okay.
See, what I would do is I would say you want the council to dedicate that $500,000 towards the parks.
Phase,
Master plan.
master plan.
Phase 1. Okay.
So I'm saying.
Don't specify 1A, 1B. Okay. You want X dollars to start it. It will cost us to go on the high end, $700,000 for the playground equipment. So how much is the city willing to put towards phase 1, commit to phase 1? Because if they say 500,000 and it comes in at 400,000, that $100,000 is still committed to the phase 1. So that can be used later. The other thing too is also reaching out to let the council know it's a $700,000 price tag to get the playground done. How much are you willing to commit? Because we're also looking at Andy and Emma to reach out to them, see if they can do some fundraising to get over. And if the city says 500,000 is all we can see right now, fine. And if fundraising can come in with a couple 100,000, great. If the playground comes in at 400,000, great, because you have that money then committed to it, phase 1. So then you can look at fundraising that monies and getting a grant for the pickleball. Okay.
Yep.
The other thing too is what the committee has to look at too is how I'm used to it working is you're having, let's just call them friends of the parks. And they go, okay, they have a 501c. Okay. But they look at it and they say, okay, but this person is best into hockey. This one's best into trails. This one's there. So they know where to go and how to work it. But I think that would be the best thing. If it gets too complicated, I understand what's going on because I've sat in the meetings, but if it gets too complicated, it won't, it has to be simple for the council.
Well, I think it needs to be simple for the community too, because
Yes.
when you say we want it for this, the plan's not clearly laid out for the community. They don't know when they're getting their pickleball
Or ice rink, or anything else.
or anything else, right?
Master
So like, it,
So my question to you now today is, we can vote on that, whether we should make a resolution to the city council today. We can have that ability, right? To make a motion.
I
would
it wasn't a
wait.
part of the agenda that there'd be
Yeah.
something to motion on, but
It might be hard to get it on the agenda, but I would wait because it might look a little,
we don't have a full commission here.
I sit on the council
think-
and I would be a voter on this resolution. It would not look good I do not feel comfortable voting on the resolution tonight to put that forth to the council. I would take Amber's, recommendation to wait until the others so it comes from the committee itself and not me with the committee. Does that make sense?
If a motion were made and seconded here in this meeting, I'm hearing that you would then make a motion to table it for the next meeting. So that we get the rest of the commission here. And I would second that. I think waiting is,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that I send a link to the video out to all the commission members so they can listen to us if they're not already. And I'll bring this back in December for just spelling it out. I'll try and write something up. Cause might hopefully be easier.
But the wording, Amber will know.
Short, sweet, 1A, 1B, it'll be full outline. And so I'll try and summarize this for us in December to have a fuller commission here to affirm a plan going forward. By then, hopefully, updated DNR grant information will also have been released. So I think that's a key component of the whole dialogue is what's the new information? And that would shed some light on the possibility of a 26 or 27 potential submission.
Okay.
Okay, cool?
I have questions about your conversation with the business owners.
Sure.
If we've moved, can move on or
Yep,
move back
yep,
or whatever.
Same topic. Yep.
Yeah, my questions were, one, was there discussion, so most of the business owners were against the local option sales tax. Did you pick up any, like themes on like why in those conversations? Just kind of what was the thought process on why not? So that's one question. And the second question is, you said in the survey, there was a question about helping fundraise.
Or helping donate, if they would donate.
Helping donate. So what was the response in the survey towards that question?
I'm gonna answer that one first. So the question was, would you be willing to donate to help fund improvements at City Park? 8 answered yes, 7 answered no, and there were 2 basically maybe inconclusives. I also put in a dollar amount, an open space for them to write in. One wrote in 800. That was the only number that came in. There was a TBD, a maybe, and a question mark. As well as comments, I think we can find private funding and believe there are other options or write-ins. And so that's what came back with, would you be willing to donate? And then to your first question, kind of as to the why not, I don't know if I really found a theme from people. There were a few items shared, and we went down a lot of rabbit holes. So it was maybe for me, I'm still trying to process all of the dialogues, because it did take so many twists and turns from the specific goal of discussing local option sales tax. There was a lot of great discussion about the park project, marketing, planning, from construction plans to marketing plans to business plans to all sorts of things, sequencing. But in terms of specifically talking about Lost, we really didn't have a very robust conversation about it,
About
in my
it-
opinion.
It itself, about,
Yes.
yeah, about loss.
A lot of great topics were discussed, and some information was shared on maybe their viewpoints as to why or why not. I have not yet found a theme across the feedback I've received as to why not.
I would say we're talking to some of the business owners, my takeaway is they would like to see, there's a lot of enthusiasm for, can we go out and raise funds? And I think that was my take, even though we didn't go in depth on Lost. A lot of them understand Lost and what it is. But I think it was kind of like the can-do attitude. Let's see if we can do this first. Okay. And I admire that. I mean, these business owners, are wonderful. Yeah. I think they'd like to see the community come together and fundraise for it first before we think about loss. That was just my
Incredible.
take of it. I had a few discussions on the complications of collecting the sales tax, and I said, well, I have to deal with 2 different counties and 4 different municipalities, so I understand it. But once you have that computed in, there is no difficulty there. But I think my takeaway was they'd like to see if they can do it, if it can be done first through the fundraising.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Good.
So while we didn't
That's awesome.
talk a lot about loss, we talked a lot about other things.
Right.
That were very insightful.
And I know someone brought up about a fundraising committee that had been started in the city, but also to that, it's been defunct for 2 years and not really going there. So if they could get that started again too, that would be great also. But yes.
Should have had to sign them up.
Well, Andy and Emma, and there's a few others
Not
there.
a fundraising committee, not a 501, but a committee on behalf of.
There's a
or-
committee right now and there is well, yes,
We have the Nisswa Enrichment Fund, which is under the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation. That's a 501c3. So that's what we've been utilizing to house the fund. So like this committee if they want to form a 501c3, like that would be something for this group of individuals to discuss. It cannot be an extension of the city, right? Because that's the dilemma we're in, that the city cannot do these things. So like, it kind of,
And that's what,
we've had individuals throw their hand up, but there's been nothing coming together.
and that's what
yet.
Cross Lake did was
They-
they've got a 501c3 with that's got its own board.
Yes,
And
and if
the
it's just
director
a bunch of
of
people
it.
that want to come up with ideas for how to raise the funds and put it in the Nisswa Enrichment Fund,
Yeah.
that can be a pathway potentially for us.
It just takes a match to get it started. Just a one little match.
Yes.
Like I said in the meeting, I'm used to an organization, a 501c North out of Bemidji, and they raise millions of dollars for their.
Yep.
So,
All right, any other questions on this one? I'll come back with hopefully a summary in December. But otherwise we can move on to new business. Sure.
Ron, you should come and sit up here.
I could answer some of your questions in regards to that, in regards to the survey. I voted not, or I stated for no lost, because it's death by 1,000 cuts. We are taxed to death, okay? Everything is taxed, I'm a business owner, and there's tax after tax after tax. There's tax on the taxes, okay? That's why I said no. I am fully willing to donate. I'm fully willing to help Andy, and that's why I answered those questions the way I did. And then one other thing is keep your first phase simple. In my opinion, don't do the if-thens. Okay, it's too complicated to tell people about. Okay, just have the one plan. This is what we want. We want to get this many dollars. Okay, Andy, the committee, let's go. Okay. When you go to a potential donor and say, well, this is what we're shooting for, and if we get this, then this, and if we do this, then this, it's too complicated. Give them a specific goal amount, and you'd be amazed how many people, or the potential for a person to step up and say, here it is, I'll write you a check right now. That there is potential there for that.
Okay.
But hang on. It's always the KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. The more simple, the faster you're going to get to your goal. But let them know that there's a phase 2. Once we hit phase 1, then this is the beginning, folks. And then after we get this goal, we'll move on to the next one. And if you keep that in mind, your potential donor at that time might say, how much is phase 2? There's some people that I know, they've donated millions, 700 million, 750 million. And if they see that it's moving forward, they might be all in, they might just give you tens of millions.
And that's the other thing too, is it's nice to know, people are going, want to know, how much is phase 1 going to cost? 700,000. But we're also having a phase 2. What's the cost of that?
Right.
It's this.
Can
And they
I-
might say they'd like to do that. So
And-
people want to know what the phases will cost.
Be very definitive on each phase.
Phase, yep.
So I want to circle back everybody to June of 2024. We did that. We put a flyer out there. We said 600,000 will be used for matching funds for the DNR grant due by January of 2025. Phase 2, X amount. Okay, so I want everyone to go home, think of why that didn't work.
There was a
So
gap.
we can come back and crush it this time.
Yeah, but there was a gap.
Yep.
Between what the phase was, and I'll just keep bringing up Andy's name. My understanding from the meeting is there was the gap between what was wanted and what we wanted Andy or the committee to do. It wasn't clear.
And at that time, we did
Or
not
wasn't
have
clear-
hands.
Wasn't clear to them anyways.
And at that time, we didn't have hands up in the air willing to go after it. So maybe that is the difference this time around. But I want to know, what are we gonna do different this time to be successful? And so I want people to go, it's already, we're an hour into this, so we'll keep it moving. But in that, keep it simple, keep it clear. Council needs to know, the public needs to know How are we gonna put this together to be clear, to be successful? Because it didn't work last time.
Mhm. So
Why?
I'm hearing an opportunity that I'm excited about. That, you know, we tried this in June of 2024. Didn't go. And
Right.
it just wasn't, maybe it wasn't the right people in the room. Maybe the right people didn't know, maybe.
It was vague.
It was very big.
So,
Yeah.
How is, we
Yes.
want 600,000 by this time
and here's exactly,
for this goal?
so,
What was vague about that is what I'm not, and maybe it's the marketing, maybe it was the marketing plan, right? We didn't have a committee, nobody took ownership to run with it. But in terms of the plan, was there something we missed in the plan there that wasn't clearly communicated?
and that's what I'm hearing from you is we need to think about that between now and,
Between now and next month, so we can crush this.
yep.
Well, now we have the community involved. I mean, because you had the business meeting with the businesses yesterday on
Yesterday.
Wednesday. Yeah, was it yesterday already? Okay, so now now the businesses are more, they're talking about loss. Now there's discussion about how to raise the funds, and people are in that room and getting me excited about it. So now get more community involvement and get it going. So
When-
now
What do,
it's
what do you
fun.
need from us?
When we would go and solicit funds and raise funds, one thing, what's the project? Okay, it's the playground. Cost, 700,000.
Yeah,
Start date, when are you gonna start this? We're gonna start it on September 1st.
And that's always been a problem because it's when we have the money.
Mhm.
Right.
So that might be one item that needs to be changed.
And if if there's funds from, if there's.
So
funds from
again,
council,
we are gonna
yeah.
come back to this in December. So
Good.
go home and think about it. People in the audience watching at home, think about it. Email Amber,
Yep.
okay?
So in,
I said in the meeting yesterday, this is a group project. This is a group project of 4,000 people.
yeah,
We gotta come together on this. Otherwise, it's not going anywhere.
But, and it's just not that complicated. To me, it's not that
so,
complicated.
so, and
It is-
we just need.
it's simple.
We need to hear, and maybe it's in December, if you could join us again. We need to hear exactly what this committee would have from us. Like, how can we empower this committee to go get this money?
Right? We need phase one clear.
Yeah.
We need a date by which the money is needed. Okay,
pretty simple.
no if-thens, just completely simple. We need to know
Simple.
who the donors write the check to, if you know already. If you don't know, then it's up to the committee to create the 501c3 or other,
Mhm.
you know, but.
Cool.
It is pretty simple.
Thank
It
you.
really is. And try to stop this, the tornado, you know, it's
Yeah.
just, I'm really, from what I know of Andy and this committee, you know, they're business people. And I don't know if any of you are business people or not, and I'm a business person. So like I say, just get phase one very, very clear, the dollar amount that you need by a certain date. And then, you know, heck, if you want me to, once you get the phase one done, where I can clearly be presented to Andy, you know, and the committee, you know, I'd be happy to share it with them. You know, or if you folks need to do that, whoever needs to do that.
So I will get this summed up in December. And to be clear for everybody, this commission has worked very hard at already doing this exact task. We've done it once last year. We regrouped in June and they set a goal for council. So I want to be clear that we are doing the work. It's just not fast. There's improvements. We can clean it up. We're gonna work on that for next month.
And have some, like a drawing of what phase one is.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very clear to the committee, so they can make it clear to the public or anyone who would donate.
See, the one thing too, what might be nice is the fly through. We used to use those visual aids. So, because you can say something, but a lot of people, they have to visualize it. So when you do have the visual aids to bring it forth, but like Ron says, you know, what it is, cost, when you want to start it. Also an idea of what phase two is, because if you start talking phase one, some people want, well, what's phase two? Because they might want to donate to phase two.
Right? Yeah,
Even though you don't have a specific amount, you know what phase two is. You even know what I mean, phase 1A is this, 1B is that, phase two is this. Yeah,
Is
I-
the-
it'll work out.
Yeah, and keep it on an 8.5 by 11 if you can.
Yeah.
You know, you, some people might want to see a lot of pages, you know, but try to keep it on an 8.5 by 11 or 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, something like that, where we can make it in color, you know, and then we can show people right there, you know,
And
picture's
is
worth
the-
1,000 words.
Is the master plan still on the website?
Of course,
Yeah, so.
two different locations.
So it's already out there.
The master plan's on there, all the renderings and budget information is on the website, as long as local option sales tax information, the fly-through video, and how to donate to the Nisswa Enrichment Fund. So it's
Yeah.
all on the website under the Park and Rec page. You just gotta keep clicking through it, but
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is there's a bit of a repackaging that we need to do.
It-
Yeah.
Because the work's been done, we're updating it, we're refreshing it.
It's a fundraising kit, and the thing in there is to have a picture of what the playground will look like.
Yeah, don't depend on your website, guys. I've spent hours and hours on it. You know, if you want the fundraising, it should be personal. You know, I sit on that website and I'm clicking and I'm clicking and I'm clicking. And it's like, how the hell do I donate? You know, the donate button or the parks button in there, you know, on like you click on Nisswa, City of Nisswa on the top, and then there's 6 square boxes that come up and they're green. Okay. The one for Parks and Rec for donating, make it red. Because I'm looking for it, and I'm looking for it, and I couldn't find it. You know, and when you're asking somebody to donate, they don't want to spend a lot of time searching. You know, they want to know, you know, just who do I write the check to? What am I writing it for? You know, and show me some pictures. You know,
Right, so that's what I
they,
do.
they're not going to sit there because I was frustrated with it too. And it's there, you know, don't get me wrong. It's there, but it's just too cumbersome to go through this long website
Yeah,
to try to.
and
find.
unfortunately, that's the resource we have at this time.
Exactly, I
So,
know, that's right.
Doing the
But
best
let's
that we
take it-
can, but no, yeah,
Yeah, let's
100%
take it
nobody
away
wants
from
to
the
click through it.
website and make it personal.
So we're hearing you, keep it simple.
Very simple,
Direct.
very simple.
Simple and direct.
Yep,
okay,
yep.
awesome.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Thank you very much. Under 7, new business, item A is, commission vacancy. So you guys have updated information here. Over the last month, I contacted Sherry and Paul as both of their terms are, expiring at the end of, January. So Paul has decided to re-up for a second term. Sherry, if you want to make your own comments, I'll let you, but your term will be ending January 31st of 2026. So looking today to outline the process for filling the vacancy.
Well, I've just decided not to do the second term. I'm thinking fundraising and looking into that a little bit more. So I believe my talents are going to be directed somewhere else. I'm willing to learn.
So, here, yeah, so thank you, Sherry, because she's not going anywhere. She's just switching. She's
I didn't
utilizing her
commit. I'm not
talents
committed, but
in
I am
another
fundraising.
avenue.
Yes.
So you guys have here kind of everybody's updated term limits. Alyssa would be moving to chair, Dan, you'd be moving to vice chair. Historically, we've just rotated through. And then you got a tentative schedule there, so I will, begin posting, soliciting for applications, and bring those back to you guys in December.
Do you have a job description for vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay, just, I saw that and I was like, when did that happen? And how did I not get a say in it?
Yeah.
See, 'cause
Yeah.
nobody ever wanted it, so we just rotate.
This is my 3rd month here,
But
guys.
Sherry's never done it, and she's here, she's doing it,
Little
so
helpful notes.
we help you out. So yes, there's maybe a one-liner on your roles and responsibilities. Awesome. The other item in your packet is 7B Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Wanted to let you guys know that this is happening. Some information, I have very limited information on this. Cross Lake is the lead. And so the handouts that they gave us in September were in your packet. And there is a larger study being conducted. So I don't have any more information at this time. This is simply to make you aware that Cross Lake has received this grant funding. And in some way, shape, or form, Nisswa has said that we're here. Let us know. So there's multiple layers to this program, but it's specifically for like vulnerable pedestrians, so your bikers, your walkers.
Mhm.
So if you guys have questions on that, I likely can't answer them, but I'm letting you know it exists, and when I know more, I will let you know more. Okay, any final discussions, comments? I'll be providing another update at City Council on November 18th, and then our next commission meeting is December 4th at 5 PM. Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. I motion to adjourn.
Sherry,
Second.
Dan? All right. Thank you very much.